first few weeks of January, as was evident, I wasn't presiding for about 3 weeks. And so I took the opportunity and the freedom to visit and to worship at 3 or 4 other parishes. And I decided while I was there, I decided to observe how seriously the congregation takes the readings and the person who is conveying that reading. And I am rather disappointed to say that the finding is not very positive. There was just too much fidgeting, parents taking care of their kids, many looking around, some taking short naps, many just being bored. In one parish I went to, they had superb readers, excellent PA system, but it didn't make any difference. I'd like to tell you that the readings are not read to be heard, but they are heard to try to understand, to find out what the message is for me, and then to go home into the workplace and live that message. Today's readings are extraordinary examples of such readings. In the gospel today, we hear that Jesus returns to his hometown of Nazareth 40 days after his retreat in the desert. Hometown, Nazareth, great importance city in Israel's history, especially for the economy. Located in the major routes to Jerusalem, Alexandria, Damascus. And so that means that in the Nazareth synagogue, there were Jewish people who were not of the city of Nazareth. They would gather for prayer and education, worship, using the words of the prophet Isaiah, the fulfillment of God's promise of the Messiah for Israel. Now here's one of our lessons. As baptized disciples of the gospel, we inherit the Spirit of God to bring glad tidings, to proclaim the Lord's favor to the people in our lives. Whatever gifts, whatever graces we possess, we can work great and wondrous things when done in the Spirit of the Lord in our own little place in our society. They don't have to be big things. Whether we know how to comfort, how to console one another, whether we can work in a soup kitchen or make a tutoring program work. We make Isaiah's vision a reality in our own little Nazareths, whether it's Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Summerlin, etc. Don't we all know that person, that man who makes things always work? When parts are missing and shipments are backed up, he can find the clog and get things moving again. His mantra is, I can make this thing work. Jeremiah, before you were born, I dedicated you. When the prophets speak, they're speaking to you and to me, not just to the people of their time. We all know that exceptional, strong woman who seems to keep things positive all the time. We know so many of them. Despite the shortage of personnel, she makes sure that the care of the residents is not compromised in the slightest. People don't see the behind-the-scenes work of organizing, explaining, teaching, fixing. Often she will be greeted by the director or resident with, "My, are you still here this evening?" And she smiles with an upbeat, never a dull moment, is there? Yeah, she gets tired and she gets frustrated at the hours she puts in. And it matters to these seniors and their families. Jeremiah, I appointed you a prophet to the nations. Keeping up with college is a challenge for our young people. It was a challenge for each and every one of us who went to college. There's always a deadline looming over our heads. Half-completed paper or a lab report, and the schedule of assigned readings never ends, never lets up. The hardest lesson, perhaps, many freshmen struggle with is to learn how to manage their time on their own, now that they're on their own. But some students still make time to be part of some college-sponsored project, tutoring kids at school, being a big brother or big sister, working on a project or campaign they feel strongly about. Jeremiah, you are a pillar of iron, a wall of brass against the whole land. They will fight against you, but they will not prevail over you. For I am with you to deliver you, says the Lord. In today's gospel, Jesus emphasizes the generosity of God to those outside the Jewish community. Try to translate that in your own lives. Who do we keep out of our community? All men and women of every race, nation, are loved by God as his own children. We talked about that last week, didn't we? It's a message that comes as a shock to the people of Nazareth, who considers Jesus' words a betrayal of his own people and a blasphemy of his faith. They're too absorbed in their own needs and too fearful for their own safety and their own security to even consider that the blessings and goodness of God transcends their own limited image of what is right. Today's gospel calls each and every one of us to embrace Jesus' vision of a world remade in everyday expression of hope, compassion, and justice that are the first signs of the coming of the kingdom. Someone has said long ago, "How selfish of you to die without having changed the world even a little bit." Yes, God is with each of us. God is everywhere.